today's video, I am bringing you an elevated furniture makeover, literally elevated, and trying not to break any glass. Will I be able to pull off this build, or will I be defeated by only measuring once and having to cut twice? Stay tuned to find out. This is going to be my most epic furniture flip ever. I'm calling it now. And thanks to Craig for helping my vision come to life. Hey everybody, welcome back to Furniture Flipping Teacher and Flipmas Day 9. We're on 9 already. I cannot tell you how long I have been looking forward to doing this project. This piece has been taunting me. Every time I go in and out of the shop, I look at it and I just dream exactly how I want it to be when I am finished with it. I definitely cannot take full credit for the idea that I'm about to execute on this piece. I want to shout out to Abisha at the Curated Attic. I have been loving her flips. They're so inspiring, and so I'm gonna do my take on a cabinet like this that she has done multiple of, and I'm so excited to execute my plans. So the first things first, we're gonna go ahead and disassemble this cabinet and get all the glass removed. This is so nerve-wracking. All right, I'm gonna save the glass. It's like the least fun thing to work with is glass. And now that's the tricky part, because this side, and then over here can only be taken out by sliding them out through the bottom, because these aren't doors. So we're gonna go ahead and lay this on its back and remove them from the bottom like that. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about this piece. I ended up picking it up at an estate sale for $180, but it's the top piece and the bottom piece. I decided to not keep them together, just to kind of modernize them a little bit. And so the base is over there. And then I can sell both pieces separately for potentially more profit than I would if I kept them together. So be on the lookout for hutches and stuff like this, because while they might not look the best and like the way that they are, there's always something that can be done to modernize them and make them fit into like the modern home. And so now that we've got all the glass pulled off, I am going to be removing the backs here so that we can get those mirrors out. Some people like the mirrors, some people aren't big fans. I would be one of those people, not a big fan, but it also kind of dates it a little bit. So we are going to remove the mirrors and we'll be putting some different backing on so that it'll have a nicer look in the back. I'm also hoping this flip we don't break the mirror like we did on our last arched cabinet.
Here, do the same thing over there.
Oh man. There is one backer board off, and then that leads us to the mirror. Woohoo! We didn't break the mirror. No mirrors were harmed in the deconstruction of this cabinet. Okay, now comes the fun part. As you can imagine, I'm not keeping this arch on the ground. We need to elevate it a little bit. And so we're gonna do that by building a base with some red oak. And we're going to build legs, but also shelves, because the bottom of this cabinet is open. So we need to close off the bottom, but then I also want to build a shelf across the bottom, both for some extra storage and aesthetic, but then also for support to make sure that the whole base base stays together and supports the cabinet really well. My vision is that we're gonna grab these red oak. They're 2x2s, but they're technically 1.5 by 1.5 because that's how wood is. I'm gonna put them about 1 foot up the sides of the cabinet on all 4 edges. So there's gonna be one here, there's gonna be one here, and then the same on the other side. And then this down here is going to be where that shelf is. If we do it 8 inches, that would make this whole cabinet 78 inches, which I feel like is a pretty good height. It's about 6.5 feet tall. So I feel like that's pretty typical for cabinets like these. And I feel like the 8 inches on the cabinet side will give it enough support. We are gonna be building the base before we attach the base, because if we attach the base too soon, then we won't be able to put all the glass back in. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is we're going to take this piece of plywood that I've had for a little while, and we're gonna rip it down with the Craig Rip Cut. And this piece is gonna end up in the bottom of the cabinet to act as the bottom. So kind of like that last shelf before we get to the base. So this is a pretty cool tool. It allows you to cut large pieces of plywood like this down to smaller pieces, so you don't have to necessarily like depend on waiting at the Home Depot or something like that to get it cut down. This one that I've got is 24 inch, and then the other one, they do have like a 48 inch one as well, but we only need a 12 3/4 inch piece of wood here, so that is where I'm gonna line up my saw to. All right, the bottom is cut. Now we are gonna need to, I believe, cut it another direction because it's gonna be, what? It's too short. Oh no, I think I cut it the wrong way.
Should I measure twice, cut once?
No, I thought I would, I didn't, I measured, this is right, the like width, or the depth. I cut it wrong. We got new wood. So we're back in the exact same spot where we left you, but this is gonna be better because I'm gonna cut it the right way. So another cutting session. I'm gonna put my headphones on this time. I also got a new blade for my saw, so I'm hoping it doesn't like stop in the middle of my cut because it's kind of annoying. Well, it stopped like twice, but I only have like 1 bar on my battery left, so that's probably why. But you guys, that rip cut is a game changer. I love it. We got our board cut. Now it's too long because I had them cut at 60 inches at Home Depot because I am gonna need one that's longer, so I didn't want to cut it too short. Long story short, we do need to trim off some, but I'm gonna go ahead and measure that so that I only have to cut this once. I did it. We got the bottom cut. I'm not gonna put it in just yet, but when I'm ready to put it in, we're gonna use the Craig pocket hole jig to create pocket holes, and it's gonna sit inset so that the bottom is flush like that. So then when I go ahead and make the base, which is what we're gonna do right now, everything will be kind of based off of this having a bottom. Okay, we're gonna make another cut. It's gonna be the same lengthwise, and this is gonna be for the shelf that's going to stabilize the whole cabinet base. So I measured, and what I want it to do is to be as wide as the legs. So I measured, and they need to be 13 1/4 inches. So that's how wide I'm going to cut this. I'm gonna get everything measured out and then we'll cut. So the Craig Rip Cut Guide is super easy to use. Once you get your saw attached to it, you can just like measure how wide you need your piece, line up the little red line here, and then that's exactly where it's going to cut. So like I need 13 1/4, so I'm going to move this to 13 1/4. so much easier. Goodness gracious, what did I do without a Craig rip gut guide my whole life? All right, so this is gonna be for that bottom portion, and I'm gonna be cutting out the corner section so that it can really fit onto the legs really well. So I went ahead and traced these corners out where I'm gonna put the legs, and I'm gonna go ahead and cut them out with my jigsaw here. Ah, yes, perfect. Now we get to start piecing these together. So I am going to grab out my pocket hole jig 520 Pro. Okay, so before I start putting the base together, I want to double check, because I just checked and the first time I cut that piece, it was too short. So now I'm gonna triple check, because I recut everything, and I'm gonna triple check that it's going to be the right size, so that when I put everything together and paint and everything like that, and then put the base and the top together, it's the right size, because that's important. Perfect. Now, pocket holes. So sometimes tools can be a little bit intimidating, but I'm here to tell you that if you know and understand how to use them, that is going to make it a lot less intimidating. So I've got my Craig jig here, the 520 Pro, and this is going to help me create what we call pocket holes. Pocket holes are sort of holes that aren't as obvious as if I just drilled a screw through a board, and then they also help to basically mask where everything is connected. It's going to be on the underside where people aren't even going to be able to see. So we've got my shelf here. And then what I'm gonna be doing is creating pocket holes on the edges of my shelf to connect them to the legs and to connect to the trim pieces that I'm going to be attaching for more support, and it's gonna look better that way too. So we've got the jig, and then we've got the pocket hole creator, the drill bit that you actually need that drills into the wood. And then what we've got a collar, which is the part that stops the drill from going in too far when you're creating the pocket holes. And then you've got the gauge that tells you how thick your wood is, as well as this helps you lock your collar onto your drill bit. And I do want to preface by saying I'm going to kind of walk through step by step on this specific project with the materials I'm using, but chances are your materials aren't exactly the same thicknesses as mine, or your project is completely different than mine, but you're still utilizing the Craig jig. So always, always, always make sure that you check out the manual. And then also Craig has a ton of great information on their website that tells you exactly like what size screw you need, what size or like what measurement of pocket holes you'll need and stuff like that. So it is kind of dependent on every project that you do. So for instance, my material that I'm going to be making pocket holes in is a 1/2 inch plywood. I knew that when I bought it, but if you're not sure, you use the gauge to tell you how thick your material is. So you just put it on the edge here, and then it tells you, so right here it's telling me 1/2 inch. So that is what I'm going to be putting my collar, my stop collar on. On this drill bit, there are different numbers here. The most common ones, we've got 1/2 inch, 3/4, and then a 1.5. So I am going to be putting my stop collar on the 1/2 inch portion right here. And then the thickness gauge also has a little Allen wrench, and you're going to be able to just put that in there and tighten it so that it doesn't go anywhere when you are creating the pocket hole. Okay, so this is the portion that will go into the wood. This is a drill bit, so we're going to connect this to the drill. So So now we're ready to create the pocket holes. But you can't really create the pocket holes without the pocket hole jig. This is what is going to actually help guide your pocket hole drill bit into your wood so that it's got the exact right thickness. So on the 520 Pro, much like this little guy, the thickness gauge, this also has a thickness gauge. It's right here on the side. And then you could just push the button and move this up and down if you had thicker materials. So like 3/4, 1/2. I'm gonna stay at the half because again, my plywood is 1/2 inch. There's so many different models of the Craig jig. There's little ones, there's bigger ones, and I like this one because since I have the plywood, I can totally just maneuver this anywhere and it has a clamp built into it. So all I need to do is put it inside my wood, or put my wood inside of it and then clamp it down until it's got a hold of it. I can go ahead and create my pocket holes, release, and then move it to the next spot. Pretty easy if you ask me. Okay, so now that we've got everything set, we're going to go ahead and put the drill bit inside of the pocket holes. Now, depending on what your material is, it would depend on which holes you utilize. Now, since I'm doing a larger plywood piece, I'm just gonna do a couple each every so often here, but if you're doing a board, there's also instructions to for the width that you want to have your holes apart, and that's in the owner's manual. All you do is hold your drill. The stop stops it at the top, and then you pull it out. It's super easy. Okay, so I made 2 there. I'm gonna unhook it. And then there, we've got our 2 pocket holes. One side done, and this is going to be the side that attaches to the kind of more decorative trim piece that I'm going to put on there. So now I'm going to go ahead and do some side ones, and then also ones that can actually connect to the legs, so that that's what's again helping with that support. Okay, this board is done with pocket holes. So this will go, picture this with me, it'll go on the bottom as the shelf. This will be the front because there's gonna be a little trim piece here. This will connect to it. And then it'll connect to the legs and it'll look really good. Okay, this one's done now. So now it's all about connecting everything to the legs, and then we will be able to move on from the building portion. We are ready to start assembling this base. So I've got a little rig going on here. I've got my bottom shelf here clamped to the table so it doesn't move when I start to screw it into the legs. And then technically right now this is upside down. So we're gonna do 8 inches from the bottom. That's where the shelf is gonna sit. So we are going to go ahead and attach the shelf 8 inches from the bottom. So the leg is, I've got it hanging off the side. That way I can make sure that they are even all the way across. I've got them all marked at 8 inches. And then we're gonna go ahead and install some pocket hole screws. So any pocket hole jig that you get also comes with the drill, the screwdriver drill bit that you're gonna need, because the pocket hole screws have a square top and you're gonna need it to be pretty long. So this is like 4 inches, I feel like. So I'm going to go ahead and put this into my drill, and that is what's gonna help me get my pocket hole into that red wood. So you want it to be very tight in there, which it is. And then move the clamp, but I will also put a pocket hole on this side to hold it as well. Okay, first leg on. Next, we're gonna do this one. Same thing here, except I gotta double measure, make sure that this leg is the 8" and then this leg is also gonna be the 8". We got the legs on. Now it's the time for the real test though. We're gonna flip it over and see what the shelf looks like. Okay.
How did that even happen?
Well, leg didn't stay attached. So, my idea is clearly working, but I don't know. I guess just the plywood wasn't strong enough to hold. We're learning. So we're gonna go back to Home Depot again, woo, and grab some thicker plywood. Okay, I'm back. I got the big board. We're gonna cut that in a minute, but I think now that that first plan it worked, but it didn't work, I have a new plan going forward. It still involves the pocket holes because we're still gonna be making that shelf and I will be cutting this down, but instead of doing the shelf as like the main support, I thought since I'm gonna be kind of finishing off the shelf anyway with the 1x2, then I can go ahead and just attach these to the legs first, get the structure, then I'll cut this to the size and I'll pocket hole screw that into the 1x2s, which was my original plan, but I'm just kind of doing them flip-flopped now. So I need to put pocket holes in this guy, which this will be perfect because I can show you how to do boards this time instead of just doing plywood. So we're still gonna be using the 520 Pro and then the pocket hole drill bit as well. We just need to make a few adjustments because this is actually 3/4 inch, not the 1/2 inch. So we'll be changing around our little measurements here and putting some pocket hole screws into the thinner boards. So we've got our thickness gauge and I'm gonna test the thickness, which it lands right in that 3/4 inch. So I need to go ahead and change around my settings on this guy to make sure that they are set for 3/4 inch thick. So it's gonna pop right up there, like so.
Okay, good.
So it's gonna pop right up there like so. Super simple, just pushing these buttons and it just raised it a bit. And then because my board is the 1.5 inch thickness wide this way, I need to put my board into this jig a little bit off center because it's thinner. So we're going to be using these two holes that are closer together instead of using the holes that are further apart. So I'm just gonna go ahead and flip this over and pop this in so that my middle point is in between these two screw holes. And again, the owner's manual has all of the charts that are gonna help you with the exact measurements that your boards are. Then I'm just gonna go ahead and clamp this down, make sure everything is even. So we've got it clamped down and now just the pocket hole jig again. There we've got our little holes right there for pocket holes. Okay, now I'm gonna do it on the opposite side, but making sure that I'm putting it on the same side across from each other. Now that we've got this front piece, we're gonna connect it to the legs. The base is made! Yes! Now I've got to cut a new shelf and then we can put it on. Okay guys, we're coming together. This is the bottom shelf, and this is going to go right between here and fit in there. All I need to do is attach it with the pocket holes, and we'll be golden. We're gonna connect this to the base, and we're gonna pray for no splitting wood, but we should be all right. I'm just gonna go nice and slow. I'm so excited to set this up. And honestly, if I'm like 100% honest, I think that that was a happy accident when that first part broke, because I think that this way that I decided to do it the second time is like 10 times stronger than it was gonna be if we had used just that plywood sheet and done it the way that I did it. So I think I learned a lot, which is really good and inspiring, because I pushed through even though things kept going wrong. But here we are. I'm gonna set this up now, and it's gonna be a perfect shelf. Here we go. Yay! I did this. Feels really good. I'm upping my skills, and I'm bringing you guys along. Now we're going to be attaching this to the cabinet. Now it's time to create the holes to attach it to the actual cabinet. So I am going to be, like I said, we're gonna give it 8 inches. And so I'm gonna use 2 screws on each leg from the outside, and I'll also use some from the inside. So that's the 8-inch mark. We'll do 1 at 6 inches and 1 at 2 inches. And I think I want them in the middle. So the middle of 1.5 inches is 3/4. So that's exactly where we want the screws to go. And I am gonna be using a countersink bit. So that means that my screw is not gonna be sticking out. We're gonna drill it so that it's kind of inset a little bit. That way it kind of is able to be masked later when we get it all together. I'll put a little cover on it, and then also it'll allow the screw to go through a little bit farther in on the cabinet. The pieces that we're putting it into on the cabinet are 3/4 inch, and I got 1.5 inch screw. So this is 1.5 inches, so we need it to go in a little bit over here. That's another reason why I chose to do the countersink screws. So that's where I'm gonna make the holes. The red oak is hardwood, so it will probably burn if you are going that far in. We are going to attach the cabinet to the base. So I think the easiest way to do that is to go ahead and lay this down on its back, and then we'll lay the cabinet down on its back inside of it, and then we'll screw it in, and then we'll set it back up. Let's do it. It is the true moment of truth to see if this base build has been worth it. We're gonna see if it holds the piece together, or like if it holds it off the ground. A little nervous, but I'm also confident at the same time. I feel like that's okay. Let's do it. Ready?
Yeah.
All right, so we need to like lift and set.
Yeah.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. It's light.
It is
before we put like all the glass back in there. Okay. Set it down. Ooh, it's sturdy. Feel that. Look at that. Very little wobble. Like actually no wobble. Like it's even. You guys, look. It looks so good. I am excited. And then like once I get the back panel back on there, it'll definitely give it more support. So like when I open the door, it won't wobble and stuff like that. Oh, this is my vision coming to life. This will have a bottom too. Oh my goodness. Okay, that is gonna be it for this video, which means that you have to stay, like tune in again next week, or no, actually in just 2 days, because this is Flipmas Day 9. We're gonna flip it in Flipmas Day 10. We're gonna paint it, but I need your help. What color should I paint this? I am so torn between colors like black, green, white. So drop all of your ideas down below in the comments. Thank you so much to Craig for sponsoring today's video. I am just so happy with how things are coming out already, and I can't wait to utilize Craig and their pocket hole jigs on more projects in 2024. If you guys don't have a Craig jig for creating pocket holes, or even like the rip cut, which is also Craig, definitely look into them if you are looking to like elevate literally your pieces of furniture. Not only can you make bases like these, but just bases on different dressers, nightstands, things like that. So all the links will be down below in the description. Tune back in for Flipmas Day 10. I can't believe we're almost done, but this project is gonna be one of my favorites. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you on the flip side.